So we're going to start by another 4 minutes. Once our Chief Technology Officer says okay to go, then we'll start the session.
Yeah, sure.
So you can switch on your camera, please, so we can begin the session.
Um, uh, your voice is not audible.
You may start the session.
Should I start?
Yes.
Okay.
Just a minute, sir. Let me just introduce the session just before starting. So, so it is good evening, everybody, all the students and all the participants. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome all of you to our day 5 session of the 2 week uh, faculty development program on effective research and proposal writing strategies. So I'd like to welcome our founder, um, Engineer Aishwarya Dhara, Chief Technology Officer, Engineer Pulak Kumar, former Assistant Scientist at VECC, and our Event Manager, Engineer Porma Kishan. The last 4 days of this FDP session covered advanced writing techniques and expert-led discussions, empowered participants to enhance their academic writing and publishing capabilities effectively using the LaTeX. Today's session is about day 5, the effective communication with the journal reviewers and editors. handling reviews, revisions, rejections is the art of the communication with journals, reviewers, and editor transforms revisions into opportunities and rejections into stepping stones towards success. In this session, participants will gain the practical strategies for drafting professional responses, addressing reviewer comments uh, constructively, and managing rejections with resilience. We are privileged to welcome engineer Aditya Singh as an esteemed speaker for today's session. Engineer Aditya Singh is a distinguished civil engineer and independent researcher, currently affiliated with Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham University, Coimbatore. A 2020 graduate from Lovely Professional University, he has an impressive academic and professional portfolio, including 22 publications, 5 journals, 8 Scopus Index book chapters, 8 international conference papers, predominantly as the main or sole author. He has presented 22 major conferences worldwide and served as a peer reviewer, editorial board member, and sub-reviewer over 136 times for international journals, conferences, and research books. Aditya's commitment to research excellence earned him prestigious award including the ICO 2023 Outstanding Reviewer Award, Thailand, and the Easy Chair Championship Reviewer Award, Cambodia, in 2023. His expertise spans multiple international journals and platforms, showcasing his pivotal role in advancing civil engineering research. Let's all welcome Engineer Aditya Singh for accepting our invitations. So before beginning the session, please ensure all the participants provide your name and affiliation in the chat box when joining for attendance and verification process. Kindly complete the feedback or attendance form at the end of each session to confirm your publication. We encourage you to actively engage in the session by participating in polls, discussions, and assignments to maximize your learning experience. Once again, I welcome each and every one of you. Okay, let's make today's session one to remember. Now, what do you say?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Arnav, for the nice introduction. And shall I start?
Yes, sir. You can start now.
Is it visible?
Yes, sir. It is completely visible.
Yeah, good evening. Good evening. I am Engineer Aditya Singh, and for today's faculty development program, I would like to thank InnovaWorld, who is organizing this 2 week FDP on research writing, and special thanks to the founder of InnovaWorld, Engineer Ashwarya, who gave me this opportunity to be one of the keynote speaker in this 2 week FDP. Today's session's title is Effective Communication with Journal Reviewers and Editors, Handling Revisions and Rejections. Uh, Currently, I'm holding positions in 5 editorial review board in American international journals because of my recent promotion this month, which are IJSSMET, IJSDS, IJPAE, IJESGT, and IJDSST. And as well as I'm also holding reviewer positions in 8 American international journals, 3 Singaporean international journals, and one Indonesian journal, which are IJUPSC, IJCVIP, IRMJ, JTA, IJRLEDM, IJAIBM, IJCEWM, JITR, JDSIS, AAES, JCC, and IJEECS. And my current affiliation is with Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham, India. Outline. In today's session, I will cover a short biography of myself and then jump to the introduction, communication, and review process, which is the highlight of today's session. Then, handling of revisions, that how revisions should be handled by the authors. Then, rejections, handling of rejections, how rejection should be handled and what to be done afterwards. Then best practices to communicate with journals, uh, when to communicate and what to communicate, and uh, what are the common scenarios where we need communication. Then conclusion, a brief biography. Of course, Dr. Arnav has already uh, gave a brief introduction about myself, and as you can see that I have 22 publications under my name, in which 16 are single author publications and 4 are main author and the rest 2 are second author. And most of my publications are Scopus Index, and I've worked in 44 positions in international research books, international research journals, then international conferences, reviewer in 6 international conferences, uh, which are either American Conference, Geo-Environment Meet 2024, or in Thailand-based international conferences or Cambodia-based international conference, and one was also organized in Chennai this year. Then also I've worked as editorial advisory board in international research book of American one. Then uh, I've worked as editorial review board member or reviewer for 136 times, or evaluation of manuscripts in international journals, international conferences, and international research books, as well as won 2 reviewer awards from foreign countries, Thailand and Cambodia last year. Then you can see this is my profile from Scopus. Currently, I'm having H index of 3, and mostly I'm having single author publications, which can be seen from here. And Google Scholar H index is 5 currently. And similarly, ResearchGate, uh, it is H index 3. And these two were my awards which I won because of my outstanding performance as a reviewer from foreign countries. And you can see in the right side that 5 editorial review board positions are displayed in the American international journals and 8 reviewer positions of currently which I am holding. Plus, there are 3 Singaporean, which I mentioned earlier, and 1 Indonesian journal. Some of them are Scopus Index journals and Web of Science Index as well. Then, moving on to introduction. Uh, First, we need to consider the significance of communication in the world of academic publishing and research, and then we are going to move to the overview of review process. Importance of communication in academic publishing and research. Uh, First, credibility and professionalism are a must. Then chances of acceptance will be covered afterwards, and then positive relationship with editors and journals. Why we need relationship, and what happens if positive relationship is made with editors or with the journals. Then common points of interactions will be covered in the case of journals or research books. uh, Moving on to credibility and professionalism, uh, if if any author or researcher uh, is moving in the direction of research, then credibility and professionalism is significant, because if uh, the researchers are becoming credible, then the chances of opening future opportunities will increase. So, how it can be done? First, high quality research publications are must, which involves originality of manuscripts, and it should pass through rigorous process, which generally happens in Web of Science Index or Scopus Index publications or journals. Then thoughtfulness, of course, there should be uh, some scientific problem which the paper is dealing with, so that some high quality output can be made by the authors or researchers. Then credibility could also be improved with clear and ethical writing that involves that plagiarism should not be there. Normally, journal to journal, the plagiarism content is mentioned, but we can say that it should be less than 10%. But in some journals, they require 5%. So it varies from journal to journal, but there's only slight variation. So plagiarism should be avoided, because it becomes just copy and paste, that you are taking someone else's manuscript and just copying it and creating your own, which should be avoided, as it is not matching with the ethical standards. Then there should be some proper structure of your manuscript. Of course, there's some basic structure like introduction. Literature review can be combined with introduction, or literature review can be a separate section. Methodology, uh, then results and discussion, conclusion. But apart from that, there can be some other subsections, or there can be some another section based on the theme of your topic. Then there should be transparency, like from where you are obtaining your data, so that it can be checked or verified. It should not be that you are hiding the data, because then the verification of your scientific study could not be done, which will create problems. So you have to cite your data, like from where you are taking this data, and how you are interpreting, and how you are getting this scientific output. Then choosing suitable journal will also improve. Uh, like you have to see that the alignment of the journal is matching with your manuscript topic or not. The journal is highly reputed or not. If the journal is highly reputed, then of course, if your manuscript is being published there, then your credibility and professionalism will also be improved. So this is also important, that the journal which the researchers are choosing, it's how much reputed. Like in a Scopus Index, also there's Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, and you can see that the most reputed journals are in the Q1. Then of course, non-Scopus Index journals should be avoided because they are not much reputed, and throughout the world they are not being given that much importance. So if the researchers wants to improve their own reputation or credibility, then it is a must that they should consider Scopus Index journals or Web of Science Index journals particularly, because indexing can be in many other things, but these two are considered worldwide for their reputation. Then, of course, submission guidelines, it varies from journal to journal. So the researchers must see and check the website of the particular journal which they have chosen, that what are the guidelines and what are the requirements that they have to fulfill before submission. Then meticulous summation should be done. There should be a proper cover letter. It should be in the proper format, and it should be proper professional tone. Uh, because you see, it's a professional world, and you should avoid unprofessional conduct. So researchers, particularly the new ones which are entering in the research world, who are not having much idea about it, they should consider that the tone of the submission should be particularly, especially formal and professional. Then feedback, whether it's acknowledgement or revisions, it should be handled gracefully and properly. Emotion should be avoided in it. Then credibility and professionalism can also be improved of researchers through collaboration and networking. Now, the first step for the new researchers is that they can collaborate within their department, or if possible, then if there's some interdisciplinary research being done, then they can also collaborate with the other department in their own university. And if possible, then networking or collaboration could also be extended to other university, maybe in the same state or maybe in the nearby city, or if possible then to other state university faculty or researchers. Collaboration and networking could be improved. And if the researchers are talking on the international scale, then the collaboration and networking should be done with the foreign authors or foreign researchers of foreign professors, because that will also improve the diversity, and it will also increase the input, because maybe in other country the faculty they are having some more rich experiences and inputs which could be combined, and if the networking is improved or extended, then it will create more opportunities. And then the conferences, through conferences can be national conferences or international conferences, and through these conferences, it is a medium through which the networking could be improved. Either the paper presenters could be contacted, or uh, if it's in a physical mode which is being preferred, then physically other paper presenters could be met by the researchers, and then there can be some topics which could be discussed, so that they can work on a common topic for their future projects. So that is also a good place to extend your collaboration and networking. Plus, keynote speakers in conferences or the chairpersons could also be contacted for their guidance in the future projects, especially if there's some new researchers it will provide a platform for them. And of course, the ones who are already in research, they also have a, an opportunity to contact with the chairs of sessions so that they can work on some other projects, and they can think about an innovative topic and give their combined input, and which can also improve the output accordingly. Then social media platforms are a must. Like if the promotion of the research publications or preprints uh, being done, then of course those who are not familiar with new researchers or with current research studies, then they will get some notifications, and they could also see and check, okay, this particular research study is important to them or not. If it is important, then they will check the link and they will go through with it. And it also provides mediums that if the particular research study is significant for them, then they can cite it, or they can consider it as a reference for their new study. So, and promotion through social media could also be done through LinkedIn, which the researchers can find a number of professors, researchers on LinkedIn who are promoting their preprints or publications and workshops, etc. Then that could also be done through ResearchGate and other media platforms. Then professionalism and credibility could also be improved with consistent research profile. For those who are stepping into the research world, it is a must that every year the research profile should be consistent. There should be some output. It should not be that in the recent year some research output was obtained through collaboration, and then afterwards there is some inconsistency. So if every year there is some research output which is improving the research profile, because every drop counts. So if it is consistent, then that will also attract the attention of other researchers, and which could also increase the opportunities for the that particular group of researchers, which might improve for future projects or future roles. Then H index is an important one of the indices which must be considered, and H index could be considered in Scopus index publications through Scopus profile, or if non-Scopus is being discussed, then it can be seen through Google Scholar or ResearchGate. But H index of Scopus is more important than the Google Scholar H index or ResearchGate H index. Then FWCI field weighted citation index is also a must, because how much impact is being done with your particular by that particular researcher through their publications in their own field. And this could also be seen through the Scopus profile. Normally the average field weighted citation index is 1.0. So it will be a better that the field weighted citation index is more than 1 for researchers. If it's 1.5, 2 or 3, it's very good. But in many of the researchers, it could be seen that their FWCI score is less than 1. Then citations are also must. If world-renowned professors are being considered, then they are having citations in 10,000s or even around 20,000s. So that means that this particular publication is being cited by that many research studies, published research studies. So it means that how much the research publication of some particular researcher is being given importance by other researchers in that particular field, and it is a measure that how that particular researcher is uh, giving some fruitful results, which is useful for other researchers in that particular field. But of course, it is not like this one particular parameter will measure the success of some researchers, because uh, it can be seen that even Albert Einstein had this particular citation or H index, for example. But in the recent years, many of the world renowned professors have more citations than Albert Einstein, for example. So it is not any special parameter which can measure the quality or success of the researchers, but it is a parameter which can give a rough idea about the researchers. So uh, I won't say that focus on one particular parameter like citation or H index, but for rough measurement or to build credibility, uh, some importance must be given to H index or field weighted citation index or citation. Then open science, of course, if it's published in open science, then the manuscript is available for other researchers to go through it and see if it is important for them or not. And of course, many of the researchers won't they will avoid the subscription based ones, because maybe in the university where they are working it, they might not have the access to the subscription based journals or that particular paper. So, of course, if it's freely available, then many of the studies will be read by other researchers, and that can help in the citations as well. Then ethical standards could also improve the credibility. Authorship is a must. If some researcher is working with a group of people, for example, they are working with four people, so authorship should be given to all the four people based on their contribution in that study. It should be avoided that the group which is working on that particular study, only a few of them are having the authorship and the others are being neglected. That is unethical, which should be avoided. And of course, ghost authors should also be avoided, because ghost authors, they are not doing any study, but some researchers are giving them the authorship maybe for financial gains or some other needs, which is unethical. It should be avoided. And the ones who are literally doing the study or contributing in the study, they should have some authorship in that particular research study. And in some of the journals, it could be seen that in the authorship, uh, how much one particular author has contributed in the study is uh, that is asked, and the researchers have to mention it. So that makes it easier to understand. Okay, The main author has contributed in the methodology part or in the structuring of the study. Then the second author has worked in the research writing. And for example, the third author or the co-authors, they have worked in obtaining the data or to perform the uh, lab study. So it gives a clear idea. Okay, these are the authors of this research study, and they have contributed in this study by this way. That is also helpful for the journals as well as for the readers later on. Then conflict of interest should be avoided. Conflicts could be among the authors that will affect the credibility of the particular researcher, because if there's some conflict, then of course it will hinder the publication step of the study, as well as later on some legal actions could be taken. So journals generally avoid having any conflict of interest uh, if some author is having it. So that's why the conflict of interest at the end of the manuscript should be mentioned, and it should be clear, because later on if there's some problem, then the chances is that even the published study could be retracted by the journal. Then adherence to guidelines. Of course, guidelines of every journal varies, and the particular journal which is being chosen by the authors, that should be considered carefully, and based on the guidelines, they should be followed. Then professional communications, whether emails with the editors or managing editors or editor in chief is being used, it should be in a proper format, and it should be polite and completely professionals. Then deadlines must be considered to build credibility. If the deadline is 1 month or maybe 2 months, then before the deadline, the authors should complete the manuscript and submit it. Or maybe in the case of revision, if the deadline is 2 weeks, so before that deadline, the revision must be taken care of and it should be resubmitted. That will also improve the credibility of the authors. Then peer support, of course, other researchers who are working in the similar area, they could help in the topic of that particular researcher. Then assistance from co-authors or from the guide could also be taken into consideration to build credibility. Then it is a continuous learning. The research world is continuous learning, which could be done by organizing workshops or attending workshops. Then feedback, which is being provided by the comments of the reviewers or by the editors. Then, as we all know, that the technology is being changing, and new technologies being coming up in the recent years, that will also go in the future. So for researchers, it is a must that they should become accustomed with it, and they should be adaptable with the new technology so that they could survive in the research world. If they are outdated, then the research world, they won't be able to survive, and they won't be needed. And that is also considered for their research study as well, because it should be novel. If it's outdated, then it is not needed for even for the present study or for the future study. So these are the parameters which could help the researchers to build their credibility and professionalism. Then chances of acceptance. Of course, the researchers, while communicating with editors, editor-in-chief of any journal, or the managing editor of some journal. They should be completely professional and polite. uh, Emotions should be avoided in those cases, and informal communication or writing should be avoided. Then, communicating research novelty and importance. Of course, clarity should be given to the problem statement, because in research world, it is important to understand the essence of research. Uh, and since research is a continuous scientific study which is being performed, it is done not for some gain or some fame. It is done so that the human development could be done through scientific study and advancement. So there should be some problem statement which uh, is being considered, and it is always there, no matter the century, no matter the year. There will be some problem, and the researchers must consider or find the particular problem in real case, and that problem, how it is being considered in the manuscript in a scientific manner, and how it gives output or how it gives idea for future studies, so that the scientific development could take place. As we can see, for example, the AI, many people are very familiar with artificial intelligence, and even school students are using artificial intelligence for their schoolwork, homework, etc. But it is important to know that this could not be achieved without research. And AI, of course, uh, it was not done in one night. In the 1940s or 50s, it was in the initial stages, and we can see that how it must developed in 2024, particularly in the recent years. So it was a step-by-step development, and problem statement was being considered by numerous researchers in their endless studies, and that problem statement in their scientific study was being solved and giving uh, reference or ideas for future studies. So that's how, in the past 7 decades, AI could be seen by most of the people as how it is, and its technology is being used. So without this problem statement, clarity, and scientific study in the research world, the advancement could not be done. And this is just an example through AI. Other studies, and if we are talking about the development in the dams or in the bridges, that is also being done with the research studies, because when any problem is being dealt with some scientific input, and that is being published, then other researchers consider that as a reference, and then they also try to find some new problems which is being generated, and then it is a step by step development. So maybe the current problem statement which is being seen in the manuscript, that will help in the development of that particular topic or area in the in the next decade. Maybe in the advancement of some particular structure, or maybe if there's some damages in the structure, or for example some other advancement that could be done with this. Then abstract should be concise for acceptance, because the first importance is given to the abstract in any of the study. So The abstract should highlight, okay, what is being considered, what is the topic, okay, this is the problem, and how the researchers are trying to solve this problem, what is their methodology in it, and concisely what is the output or what is the result they obtain. It should be formulated in one paragraph. This also helps in the acceptance if the abstract is concise. Plus, later on, if the manuscript is published, then also the readers normally first check the abstract of the manuscript before reading the whole manuscript. Then cover letter, of course, it should be formal, but it should show that what is the scope of the study and how it is relevant in that particular area or at present. Then submission guidelines, okay, details. What are the details that is normally mentioned in the website of any of the journals, and what are the requirements of that particular journal that must be fulfilled before submission of manuscripts. Then professional tone, of course, if there's some email which is uh, sent by the managing editor or maybe the editor in chief, so there should be prompt response. It should be done as early as possible, maybe by the same day. Okay, this is the revision which they are expecting. Okay, this revision will be done by this deadline, before this deadline, and if there's some clarification or some inquiry, then also it could be done as early as possible. And of course, it should be polite and professional. Then, for acceptance, the writing should be clear. There should be one logical structure, like there should be a topic, abstract, introduction, literature review as part of introduction or a separate section, methodology. Okay, what is the methodology is being considered by the researchers? Is it a lab study, numerical modeling, or is it a review paper? So that's, and then okay, what is the results and discussion? Then what is then conclusion of the study, references. So it should follow a proper logical structure, and of course there can be some other subsections as per the requirement of the topic or the study. Then ambiguous language should be avoided because that will uh, make it unclear. So, for clarity purpose, uh, the words should be chosen wisely and language should be proper. Then, uh, what is the feedback of the reviewers? That must be carefully considered and addressed. Then chances for acceptance, of course, there should be pre-submission. In the pre-submission stage, uh, input of the co-authors of the researchers must be taken into consideration because when suppose there are four authors in one particular study, so they will generate some kind of input which can be valuable. Plus, uh, their input should not be avoided because it is a collaborated work. So, to avoid some conflict later on, it is good that their input is being considered before the submission. Then, language should also be considered by proofreading of the manuscript so that during the evaluation process, or maybe later on, if this production stage, it can have smooth sailing. Then tailoring of audience for acceptance of manuscript, it the researchers must consider that their selected journal, what is the audience which that journal deals with. Normally it is mentioned in the website, so that could be considered. Okay, this is the particular set of audience which this X journal considers. So the manuscript or the scientific study being done by the researchers, okay, how this particular study is going to attract the attention of the targeted audience of the journal, because the journal also needs to improve their credibility. So there should be some consistent audience which they are attracting. Even the Q4 journals try to reach the Q3 journal list. So they are having some consistent audience which they are dealing with. So the manuscript or the scientific study of the researchers should attract the attention of that targeted audience of the journal which is being considered. Then, of course, the tabular form or some graphical representation to support the study will attract the attention of the readers, or even in the evaluation process, as that is how the human psychology works. So, if there's lack of graphical support of tabular support, then psychologically, those who are reading the manuscript, they will get it will get monotonous, and they will lose interest maybe in the middle of the study, as some of the manuscripts, maybe in the conferences, they are having around 3000 words, okay, but in journal papers the word range is around 5000 words to 7000 words, or even more. In the book chapters, it can be from 7000 to 10,000 words, or maybe 10,000 to 12,000 words. So of course, if there's no graphical representation or tabular representation, then the reader will lose their attention, and many of the things which is being considered in the study, because of monotony, they could be neglected, because psychologically the reader might lose interest. So the chances for acceptance, graphs and tableau support of in text of the text in the manuscript must be present. Then ethical transparency. Of course, the manuscripts should be original. They should not be plagiarized, and whatever the source is being considered as a reference, they should be properly cited. Citations should not be avoided, and there should be no conflict of interest, maybe among the co-authors, or maybe even in the institution involved. Then, uh, if there's a building of rapport with the editors, then the chances of new opportunities, or even slight chance for acceptance, could be increased. This could be done with professional interaction, and this will improve the trustworthiness of the researchers, because then editors will have that particular researcher in their mind. Okay, this particular researchers, or this group of researchers, they are producing some fruitful scientific studies, and their publications could be considered as a reference. So in the new projects, or in the new uh, publication of the journal articles, because some of the journals are quarterly, some of the journals are annual or biannual or monthly basis. They publish their volumes. So then the editors will have, okay, this group of researchers could be contacted for the next issue. And same in the case of research books, because the journal editor in chiefs, they are also editors in the research books. So they can contact the researchers who are having some good rapport with them and trustworthy for those projects or for those invitations. And of course, the slight chance could be given in the case of revision or some extension of deadlines to those researchers who are having good rapport with editors. Then, quality of research content is a must for acceptance. The scientific study should be novel because it should deal with the current problem, but it should also has some possibility that future studies could consider it as a reference or as a stepping stone for advancement, scientific advancement in that area. Then the research study should be relevant to the field or relevant to the journal, and it's so that the journal should have some consistency in that issue. All the articles which are being published, they should have some common thing and relevance to that particular theme of the journal. Then data or the study which is being done by the researchers, it must be accurate. Inaccuracy is not considered in the case of research work. Then of course, whatever the study is being done by the authors, it should have the possibility that the future researchers or other researchers could reproduce such results in their own respective studies. So that will also increase the chances of acceptance, because these are the parameters which are being considered while accepting the manuscript. Then effective communication with, in the case of editors, the communication should be proper, it should be prompt and in a professional tone to avoid misunderstanding. And of course, in the case of networking or some future projects or roles, it is a must. And that also makes the group of researchers as reliable in the eyes of the editors. Then positive relationship with editors and journals. If uh, this question might come, why relationship with editors and journals must be there? Of course, there will be some editors in the journal, and their positions might change based on their performance. And it is not like any particular journal will be considered by the group of researchers. But if there's some kind of relationship with the journal, then the researchers will have some idea. Okay, if their study is being published by this particular journal, say as Journal X, then they get the idea. Okay, how their study was being considered in the review process and how it was published. So, based on that experience, they could use it for their future studies in the next issue of that particular journal. Or if they have some idea about the editor in chief or the managing editor, then they will know, okay, what this particular editor or managing editor or of this journal is considering in the scientific study. So those things could be considered in the manuscript in the future studies, and it is not limited to that. Uh, the slight potential of acceptance of manuscript increases if the relationship with editors is good. Uh, because you see, the research study which is being performed by the authors, it could take more time than that was considered in the initial stages. So there might be some deadline. So if there's some positive relationship prior with the editors of that maybe journal, or maybe in the case of conferences or research books, so the researchers could use their prior positive relationship to ask for some extension of deadlines to improve the quality before submission. And some chances could also be given by the editors after the review process or during the review process to those who are having some positive relationship with editors, and that is being done based on the past performance of the researchers having successful publications. So that builds the trust and improves the relationship, because this is a continuous learning process and continuous advancement. So uh, if there's some long-term relationship, it could be done through the previous parameters which were discussed earlier. And the long-term relationships is not only advantages to the authors but also to the editors, maybe section editors in the case of some journals, because they also have to consider the next issue which should be published. So there will be some key researchers or authors who have the past publications, successful publications. They have uh, the good quality and all in their past studies. So those will be contacted by the section editors or managing editors of that particular journal, because the next issue of that journal also have some deadline. If it's an annual journal, biannual journal, or monthly journal, the next issue should be published with this many manuscripts by this date. So initially, the editors, section editors, or editor in chief, they will consider the key researchers having the good studies, publications earlier. So that will be kind of a fixed ones. And of course, then there will be some new ones whom are not familiar with that journal or editors. Uh, so for long-term relationship, it is fruitful for both the parties, for the authors and as well as for editors of the journals. And more opportunities could be created if there's some positive relationship, as the editor of that particular journal might also be associate editor or editor in chief in some other journal, or they might be involved in some organizing some uh, conference of national importance or international importance, or maybe in the case of research book, they might be also an editor or co-editor in some research book, or they might invite, in the case of the journals, for the next issue to that authors who are having some positive relationship, or they might invite if they are organizing some conferences of national importance and international importance that call for papers, so so those authors will have some more opportunities in working for the next issue of the journal or for some conferences of national and international importance, which they will be notified first. Then, similarly, in the case of research books, if that particular editor in chief or section editor or associate editor, they are in they are editor or co-editor in some research book, then call for chapters will be given to the authors who are having positive relationship with that editor. Then some peer review invitation could also be given by the editors, by maybe the managing editors or by the section editors or editor in chief or associate editors. This could be done because they are also holding position in other journals or maybe in some conferences. So if they see that there's some consistent research output from this group of researchers or authors, so in that case, peer review invitation could also be given. Maybe uh, suppose if there's some research book project, so there's a group of authors in one of the chapters, suppose chapter 1. So there's some other chapter being submitted by some other researchers, suppose chapter 10. So some peer review invitation could be given to the author of chapter 1 to consider the evaluation of chapter 10. And of course, they should be expert in that area. So expert opinion is also invited, and how the editors will have the idea that this researcher or group of researcher should be given invitation, because if the researchers are publishing some good scientific studies in that particular area, so they will be considered reliable, and the editors will think, okay, they are having the idea in this particular area, so they should be given some invitation for peer review process. And of course, the invitation or in the case of peer review process, that will also be um, considered by editors, that the performance in the peer review process is up to the mark or not, and that will also decide whether to give future invitation to such author for other peer review process or not. Then other rules could also be given, like they might invite that author researcher as a panel member in some conference or workshop, or as a chairperson or session chair, or maybe as a keynote speaker. So the positive relationship uh, is a stepping stone for that. Then increased chances of revisions if they are familiar, okay, this group of researchers have published good scientific studies in the past, so maybe in the recent study, uh, in the case of strict evaluation, if there's some negative evaluation, then they might give some chance before rejecting it completely to those who are having some positive relationship, that they could resubmit it. Then extension of deadline, as mentioned earlier, that uh, since authors They are also like in the academic world, they are also having faculty positions, they are having other projects and duties. So it might be possible that they are not able to submit the manuscript by the given deadline. So in that case, if they are having a positive relationship, then they could ask the editor in chief or section editor of that journal, or in the case of conferences, or in the case of book chapters, that they should be given extension of deadline for submission of their manuscript or chapters or conference paper based on it. So, of course, if some researcher is not having any relationship, then there's, the editors are doubtful about it, whether to give extension of deadlines or not. Then better feedback and guidance is being considered in the case uh, to those who are having familiar authors, that they are producing good results in the past. So in that case, if some they are expected to produce more fruitful results, then some elaborate feedback could be given to them, or some guidance by the editors in that case, in the journals or in the book research books. Then, of course, in the journal community, uh, the authors are integrated in a more better way, as they are able to form their repo with other authors in that particular issue, or it produces an opportunity that that particular issue, their study is being considered for reference by other researchers, and that how it increases the networking and citation or reference of the studies. Then a smoother publication process. Of course, there are many challenges in the publication. So, in the case of authors having a positive relationship, suppose they got some opportunity for some conference by that particular section editor, which are also who are also acting as an organizer. So in that case, if the author is not familiar with that conference, then they will get some guidance uh, by the that editor, section editor, who is acting as an organizer of the conference, or maybe there's some clarity or some inquiry which is needed, or some kind of guidance authors, particularly the new authors. In that case, uh, the editors might give uh, help, more help to those who are familiar with them. Then increased networking opportunities, as mentioned, uh, that in the case of conferences or even in partnership, like maybe ex authors who have published in the same issue, and Y authors who have published another manuscript in the same issue, they might also check, okay, this particular ex authors who published in the same issue, they might contact if their study area is matching, and their future topic could be collaborated. In that case, some fruitful outcome could be produced in the future by collaborating new ideas. Then, similarly, academic opportunities could also be obtained if the research profile is good. Then that particular researcher could apply to another university for academic roles as a faculty, maybe in the same state or in the same country. And if uh, its Scopus index or Web of Science index profile is good, which could be seen by Scopus profile, Scopus author profile, then academic positions could be obtained in foreign universities by the authors. And of course, professional network extends as more importance is given to the quality and consistent research profile. Then reputation improves step by step. If particularly the new researchers who are stepping in the world of in this world of research, maybe year 2024 might produce some little bit fruitful outcome, but maybe by 2025 some more outcome could be produced. Similarly, maybe in the next 5 years, if they remain consistent, then their reputation, which was nothing in the year 2024, by the year 2030 it will be noticeable, which will also attract either academic opportunities or promotions. In the case of faculty, maybe if they are assistant professor grade 2, they might be promoted in the year 2030 based on their improvement in reputation by assistant professor grade 1. Or even they might get opportunity to evaluate papers from author to peer reviewer from 2024 to 2000 by the year 2030, if they remain consistent and improve their reputation, or if they are already having some roles in the evaluation process, then based on their consistent fruitful performance, they might get some promotion immediate to immediate next position. Then, of course, the handling of future manuscript or papers will be considered with trust by those who have been producing successful, good quality research publications, because they will be considered as trustworthy ones in the eyes of the section editors or editor in chiefs of the journal. Then common points of interaction. Uh, in the interaction of researchers with the editors or section editors or editor in chief, the common point is during the case of submission of manuscript or maybe pre-submission, maybe some inquiry is being done, or maybe some clarification is needed during the pre-submission stage, so that appropriate manuscript could be prepared. Of course, the website of the journal is having all the guidelines and formats, but then also authors might need some more clarity or some more inquiry is needed. Then during the pre-submission stage, they can contact and interact with the section editor or managing editor or editor in chief of that particular journal, or that can also be similarly done with research books. They might contact with the editor of that particular X research book and clears some of the doubts which they are facing, which is not there in the chapter call. Then during the submission process, interaction is being done with the uh, editor in chief or maybe the managing editor or section editor of the journal, while submitting the manuscript, emails could be sent to them, and some acknowledgement receipt will be produced from their end that gives the idea, okay, this manuscript is successfully submitted. Then interaction is done in the case of revision. The manuscript is being evaluated by the reviewers, and then they have come to a conclusion, okay, these are the revisions which the authors must perform. So in that case, the editor in chief or section editor might contact the authors, and in that case, the interaction will be done during the revision process. And after revisions, if some more clarity, or maybe during revision some clarification is needed by the authors, they might interact with editor in chief or section editor of that journal, so that suitable revisions could be done in the manuscript. Then in the case of rejection, also interaction is done with the editor in chief by the authors. Maybe they might ask for some modification and resubmission, or they might ask for the guidance or uh, some other journals which could be suggested by the editor in chief, or some improvements which could be done in the scientific study by the authors. Then overview of review process. Uh, it is needed by the authors to understand what is the typical workflow: submission, initial screening, evaluation, then how, when is the decision comes, on what basis, revisions, types of revisions, then what are the key stakeholders in it, involved in the process, which will be covered in the next slide. Before understanding the review process, authors must understand what is the typical workflow. The submission is being done by the authors after preparing the manuscript by considering the guidelines mentioned in the journal website. Then there will be some initial screening by editor in chief or that X journal or managing editors. In the initial screening, they will check for plagiarism. They will check for that whether it is matching with the theme of the journal or not. Usually, initial screening takes for a few days, or at max a week, roughly a week, or maybe around 3 days. So, in the initial screening, if it passes, then it is fine. If in the initial screening it is not up to the mark, then a quick uh, a quick email will be generated to the authors that the manuscript is plagiarized, or it is not up to the mark, or not matching with the theme of the journal, so it is being rejected immediately. But suppose if it passes with the initial screening, then the editor in chief will pass, or the managing editor, to the peer review process. It might take a month or a few months, or maybe more than that. Even it might take several months or even a year. Then, based on that, the editorial decision stage comes when the editor in chief compiles the review of all the reviewers, and then takes the decision about the manuscript, and what comments should be compiled and emphasized on. Then the revision process starts. The authors are contacted that, okay, these are the compiled comments, and it should be emphasized during the revision process by the authors. They might get maybe a week time if there's some minor revision, or maybe a month time if there's a major revision, or 2 weeks. It varies based on the circumstance. Then after revision, then final decision will be taken by the editor-in-chief or section editor of that journal. Then the production stage comes, which might take a month or two based on the publisher. Then the last step is the publication, when everything is done and it is published, maybe in the online format, or on demand, or in the hard copy format. Then overview of review process. First, submission and initial screening is being done, where the editor-in-chief will consider, okay, uh, the theme of this particular journal is about sustainability. Whether this manuscript is talking about sustainability or not, or maybe that journal is having the theme of transportation. So, transportation engineering is being considered or not, uh, or whether the theme is different. If the theme is sustainability, then the manuscript is following some sustainable uh, technologies or sustainable approaches to deal with the current problems or not, or if the area of the manuscript is different, in the initial few days it will be rejected. And plagiarism, of course, this is one of the major problems which could be seen, that many of the submissions, they are having a high plagiarism, maybe 40%, 50%. So, of course, this should be avoided before the submission, so that in the initial screening it could be passed. And this could be avoided by checking with Turnitin software in the department, or contacting with the guides or with the co-authors or senior faculties, so that in the initial screening of the review process it shouldn't be rejected. Then, of course, in the initial screening, some main things will be checked at a glance, that uh, whether the structuring is fine or not, or then it will be then the editor in chief, if they are satisfied, okay, the initial screening is up to the mark of the study, then they will go for selection of reviewers. They might search for at least two reviewers, or in the standard cases, three reviewers. But sometimes they have to search for 4 or 6 reviewers. So, based on that, they have to check, okay, this particular study is about AI and ethics. So, in that journal they will be having a number of themes. So which reviewer is an expert of AI and ethics, they will search based on it, and they will have some list of reviewers in their journals which might be suitable for the manuscript evaluation process. So they will invite those reviewers through emails, uh, notification, or through the system, and then they will wait and give them a week time, that whether those reviewers are accepting the evaluation request or not. because reviewers are also very busy in their lives. They are also having academic roles. They are also in other projects of their own. So this takes a lot of time, and of course sometimes they have to search for independent reviewers which are not affiliated with their journals as an expert to evaluate the manuscript. So they have to search for them and their availability. If they are not available, then whom should be contacted? This stage also takes a lot of time. Then peer review a stage. Of course, even if the reviewers have accepted the evaluation request, then based on the guidelines, they might get uh, maybe in some journals they give time around 10 days. Then in some journals, based on the publisher, they might give the time of 2 weeks or maybe a month time. It varies based on the publisher and journals. But even if the deadline is suppose a month or maybe a 2 weeks time or 10 days, then also the reviewers who have accepted evaluation request might not evaluate the paper by that deadline. They might take more time for the evaluation process, maybe because of their hectic schedule in their academic positions in the universities, or maybe in their own projects, or guiding their own research students. So that will also take or extend the time in the review process. And of course, maybe first reviewer have already submitted their comments. The editor-in-chief is waiting for the second reviewer, or if later on the second reviewer has submitted the comments, they have to wait for the third reviewer before going for the decision. So this stage might take maybe several months also at times, or a year. It varies based on the situation. Then peer review are normally single blind review, double blind review, or open review. In the case of single blind review, the reviewers normally who are accepting the evaluation request or manuscript, they already come to know that okay, these are the authors of the manuscript, they are having this affiliation, etc. So they evaluate the manuscript by knowing this information. And of course the authors won't be knowing who is evaluating their manuscript in the case of single blind review. But many of the journals follow double blind review. In that case, the reviewers also don't know that who are the authors of this manuscript, and the authors also don't know that who is the evaluator, who is the reviewer, who is evaluating the manuscript. So that makes it anonymous, and it makes it more fair compared to single blind review. And in that case, because you see that even reviewers are also humans. So if the authors are anonymous and they are not having any affiliations written in the manuscript, then the reviewers might do more justification to their evaluation process, and that will avoid biasness from their end. Then, in the case of open review, uh, the reviewers already know okay, these are the authors, they are having this affiliation with this university or company or research institute, and they are having this particular research study, and then they are proceeding with the evaluation of manuscript. But apart from that, authors also come to know later on who has evaluated their manuscript. For example, in the case of Frontiers, which is one of the famous publisher, suppose they are having X journal and they are following open review. So, uh, in the case of open review, some independent reviewers are being contacted by handling editors of that journal, who might also be associate editor in that journal, and the handling editor, they have sent a notification email, and the independent reviewer who have accepted it, they check it. Okay, this is the manuscript, these are the authors affiliation. Then they have to mention whether they are familiar with the authors or with the affiliation of the authors or not, so that there shouldn't be any biasness from their end in the evaluation process. There should be some third party. So when they accept it, then the evaluation process is start, and they might get some deadline of 10 days or 2 weeks. It depends on the publisher. But in the case of open review, after the evaluation process, after the comments are made and the authors have implemented it, and production stage is also completed and it goes to the publication stage, the manuscript is published, but then the reviewer's name is also mentioned in the manuscript, which highlights, okay, these were the reviewers who had earlier evaluated the manuscript. So authors also come to know, okay, these were the reviewers who evaluated and commented for revision in their manuscript. And of course, readers also come to know, okay, these were the reviewers, these were the authors in this particular publication of this journal. So, based on the publisher and their journals, they follow different review process, either single blind, double blind, or open review. Then the evaluation process. Yes. Okay, I will try to speed up. I was thinking of a long one, so I might have taken. Okay, then. Okay, sure. Then I will speed up the lecture. Yeah. Then evaluation, of course, the contribution to that particular field, whether it is following that particular study or not. If it's transportation, then what is the new technology which is being considered in that manuscript? The structure, how it is relevant to this journal, originality, that is being considered during the evaluation process of the reviewers. Then recommendations by reviewers, the most case which is either accept minor revisions, major revisions, or rejections. Then review feedback compilation. Editors, they compile all the reviews from two, three reviewers, or maybe four, five reviewers. Majority of the reviewers should support manuscript is up to the mark for the journal publication, and then they compile and send it to the then the editorial decision is being done by the editor in chief or section editor of the journal. Then the resubmission or reevaluation takes place. The authors are contacted, they are asked to do the changes, specified changes, and to resubmit the manuscript. Then the manuscript is being reevaluated whether they have followed the specified changes or not. Then the final decision is being taken by the editor in chief whether it is up to the mark, the resubmission is not, and then publication, post acceptance, like before publication, it is proofreading, then typesetting. It is being done by the publisher during the production stage, and then it follows the publication. And then here it can be seen like every publisher is having some differences in their format of their journals. Here it can be seen of that for journal articles they have submitted, the authors have submitted full articles. Then editor in chief did the initial assessment, accept or reject within a few days. Then in the case of like IGI Global, they followed a double blind review. So here they are following double blind review. But some other journal might find single blind review or maybe open review, like in the case of Frontiers Journal. And then the editor in chief reviews it, then they send it to the associate editor to evaluate the manuscript, then back to editor in chief of the journal, then author reviews, like author revisions is being asked, then editor in chief again checks it, then associate editor checks it, then back to editor in chief, then production phase and proofing. Then in the middle, it can be seen that there will be some little differences in the case of book chapters. In the case of associate editors, managing editors' role is more active. Then similarly, maybe for books, if the books is single authored, then the evaluation process will vary slightly. There will be editorial advisory board who will review, and they will be more active. Then common challenges in the review process. Delays is a common process. It might take several months, even sometimes year, or more, maybe more than an year. This can be, for example, if there's some book chapter call and it is being submitted, that research book might take a year if it is all right, but it might also take 2 3 years because of the reviewers availability, or in the review process they might take more time to submit their comments. Then conflicting feedbacks is also one of the challenges. Maybe reviewer 1 is supporting the manuscript but reviewer 2 is opposing the manuscript. So maybe there's a vast difference in reviewer 1 comments or reviewer 2 comments than reviewer 3 comments. So uh, that affects or that delays the decision by the editor in chief. Then more reviewers are asked to evaluate the manuscript. And of course, major challenge is the rejection part in the review process. Then key stakeholders, it varies based on the journals and publishers, but the major key stakeholders are authors, editor or editor in chief, reviewers, then managing editors in the case of research books, editorial review board. They are also they could be seen in the website of the journal. Then associate editors or section editors could also be there based on the journal or publisher. And some additional positions could be there, guest editors. They could also be key stakeholders for special issues. Then handling revisions, types of revisions, interpreting comments of reviewers, and how revision response should be prepared. Then final checklist before submission. Then, if types of revision is being considered, minor revisions is considered when there are some small changes, like maybe grammatical issue, or maybe some typing error, or something very small is required. Then major revisions is asked when there's some structuring error, or maybe it is not following a logical structure in the case of manuscript, or restructuring is required. Then conditional acceptance, it is done when okay, there's some particular condition which must be followed by the authors, then it could be accepted based on it. Then revisions after rejections with resubmission invitation is also done in some cases, or maybe that could be done to another journal, the resubmission. That happens based on the requirements. Then technical revisions, maybe that particular journal is having X standards which must be followed, and based on that the revisions must be done. Then post acceptance revisions, that is usually done during the production stage, typesetting and other things, which is being contacted by by the publishers. Then interpreting comments of reviewers. Comments should be categorized by the authors, whether that is some major issues which the reviewer is asking, or the minor issues which their studies should deal with, or additional information is being asked by the reviewers to support their scientific study. Then some common themes should be identified by the authors, like all the reviewers are suggesting some particular revision which comes under the repeated suggestions, or some thematic improvements, like some section should be, or subsection should be elaborated and supported with other past studies, or some data that all comes under that. Then distinguish between suggestion and requirements. There could be some optional changes which could be up to the authors, and there will be some mandatory changes which must be done during the revisions by the authors. Then understanding the reviewer tone and intent is really important by the authors. There will be constructive feedback which will be easy to understand by the authors, but there might be some reviewer who might give brief comments or ambiguous. Then in that case, based on the context, the author should try to understand it, or maybe take the advantage of their co-authors, or ask clarification from the editor in chief. Then critical or dismissive comments, that must be focused on the content instead of the tone of the comments. Then comments should be addressed systematically. There should be some response document. Then reviewer comments should be quoted. Justifications must be done. Then clarification, if the editor in chief must be contacted if there's no clarity in the comments. And of course, the original manuscript which was submitted earlier, that particular section should be considered where the revisions must be done. Then professional and concise responses must be there. Emotions must be avoided. It might be having some harsh comments, but it should be avoided. There can be opinion differences among the reviewers itself, or maybe the understanding of reviewers and by the authors, but that might be openly accepted. Then Based on the impact of the comments of the reviewers, priority must be given. Then preparation of revision responses. Carefully understanding and reading of comments by the reviewers must be done by the authors, and highlighting the key areas which must be required to be done, be there, that this particular section Z is modified as per the comments of the reviewers. It should be done by point response. Okay, the first comment of the reviewer one is this, then this modification was done by the authors, and it should be highlighted separately in the manuscript. Then similarly for the second response, and then similarly for the other second reviewer, response 1, response 2, and similarly for third reviewer. Then format the response. It should be comment based for each response, and what was the action taken by the authors in response to that specified revision. Then drafts should be clear and it should be polite. Uh, the reviewers must be in the response sheet, must be communicated politely. Okay, thanks for suggesting this idea, and this is being incorporated. This action was taken by the authors, by us. Then similarly for point by point for other responses. In final checklist before resubmission, manuscript should be revised once at least before resubmission, so that there can be some smooth sailing afterwards. Again, this should not ask for okay, again the reviewers comments are asking for revisions, to avoid that process. Then whether each response of the reviewers is considered in the response sheet or not. Submission files, separate response file, and separate modified manuscript should be there. Then technical checks should be done. Then journal policies should be seen in the website and adhered and followed before resubmission. Then again do the final proofreading, so that there should be more chances that resubmission is following the specified changes. Then communication with co-authors must be done so that their input can also be incorporated while following the revision or revised manuscript submission. Then dealing with rejections, types of rejections, strategies for handling rejections, learning from rejection, and how to communicate or when to communicate after rejection. Types of rejections, there can be desk rejection. Maybe the scope of the manuscript is not proper, is not according to the journal, or maybe it is low quality, or maybe uh, plagiarized. Then there will be a rejection in that case. Or this might be during the initial stages also. And then rejection after peer review, maybe the experts or reviewers, they didn't like the manuscript was up to the standard of the journal, so they might reject it based on the structure, or maybe there was no scientific study, no proper scientific study, or the data was not up to the mark, so they might reject it. Then there might be conditional rejection, where they might reject and ask for resubmission based on some specified condition. There might be technical rejection based on the guidelines of the journal. Then rejection can be also because if ethically the authors are not following the guidelines, or it is plagiarized, then rejection will be done immediately. If there have been cases of retraction of manuscripts because of unethical policies of the authors. In that case, the authors are blacklisted or their profile is negatively affected. So it should be avoided. The ethical violations and plagiarisms, it creates a negative issue, negative image of the authors. Then poor fit of the journal and the manuscript can also cause rejection, and competitive rejection could be done in the top tier journals. Like if Q1 journals is being contacted for the submission, then they are having competitive competition with other Q1 journals, so they might reject it because they might require even better quality research study. In that case, the another journal can be considered, or maybe the lower Q journals could be considered. Then cascading rejection, maybe the submitted manuscript in that journal might not be a good fit. Then in that case, the in the under the same publisher, some other journal which might be the proper fit might be suggested from the editor in chief or the managing editor for submission by the authors. Then strategies for handling rejections. Of course, it is a tough matter because the authors have spent months of time, even a year or more, to conduct that research study. So it is a very sensitive matter when they face the rejections. But in the research world, uh, it is a very common thing. So staying calm and reflecting, okay, what was the thing lacking in their study must be done by the authors, and why the manuscript was rejected should be analyzed by the authors from a neutral point of stand. Then they should learn from the feedback of the reviewers and editors decision, that okay, how their research study could be improved further in the future. Then revise and resubmission could be done in the case of rejection if it is suitable. Maybe chances are done if it's in the same journal after rejection, uh, or choose the next right steps, which could be for other journals which might be suitable. And in that case, if the comments of the reviewers being followed, then the chances of submission to other journals might increase by improving the quality of the research study. Then improve communication with editors even after rejection. uh, the it should be professional communication with the editors, and there should be some chance that in the next issue maybe some other study could be submitted by the authors. Then common pitfalls should be avoided, like resubmission of manuscript or chapters without the expected changes, or arguing with the reviewers. Maybe the authors might not understand the point which reviewers are trying, the experts in that area. But then also they should be openly taking their comments seriously, and then do the needful changes instead of arguing with them. Then learning from rejections. Rejection is a stepping stone in the world of research. So reasons should be understood by the authors. What was a particular reason that the study was rejected? Then Feedback of editors and reviewers must be analyzed from a neutral point of stand by the authors so that the overall quality should be improved and some learning could be done by the authors. Then that will also be helpful in strengthening the manuscript by the authors. Then, of course, broadening of understanding of journal expectations, maybe what journal is expecting the authors might not be understanding. So from rejection, this is a step that the expectation of journals could be understood and horizons of the could be broadened by the authors. Then resilience and growth mindset would be there after rejections because it is a step by step learning, and even if it's rejected, try to look for other journals, try to strengthen the quality of the journal, quality of the study, and by following the comments of the reviewers or reasons for rejection, and go for other journals or maybe for conferences or maybe for research book. So it should be a growth mindset. Then guidance should be seek from either from the editor in chief or maybe some uh, professors who are expert in that areas, or collaboration could be done by those who are known in that area after rejection, so that the chances of improvement increases. Then perspective on the feedback should be broadened by uh, understanding it neutrally, not from a biased basis or as an author. Then long-term strategy is a must in the case of rejection, because if it's rejected, try to go for the other journal. Again, if it is rejected, try to improve again, then go for other. So it is a long-term process. So a strategy should be there. Okay, if this doesn't happen, then the next step should be taken. Then innovate and adapt. The technology is advancing day by day, so the researchers should also become adaptable to the new technologies, and with the passage of time, and that should be incorporated with their studies. Then rejection, uh, after rejection, there should be some positive outlook, and think about how to grow from this obstacle or hindrance. Communication after rejection, either editors in chief or section editors could be contacted for guidance or some clarifications regarding the manuscript, uh, about the basis of rejection, or some inquiry could be made by the authors. Then best practices in communicating with journals. Email writing should be effective, it should be proper and professional. Uh, if in case the researcher is new, then they could take the help of some professors or maybe some of their expert collaborators, that will help them. Then addressing or editors and reviewers should be done in a proper manner, and whatever the comments is, that is being done with the response sheet with point by point, which was discussed earlier. Then miscommunication should be avoided. That's why there should be prompt reply, and there should be communication in a proper manner, and any clarification or guidance could be done with communication. General scenario is either for extension, there's some deadline. If the authors are failing the deadline, then they could request for the extension with the maybe editor of the research books, or maybe the conference organizers, or maybe for the special issue of the journal, uh, guest editors, or maybe the inquiry from the editor in chief or section editors could be one of the cases from the author's end. Or maybe some information might be needed which is not being displayed on the website, or some clarification or guidance which might be needed apart from what is being displayed on the website, or what is not understood by the authors. Then conclusion, the importance of communication in this lecture was covered, and how the reviewers' comments should be interpreted, and what are the types of revisions, and how rejections work, or what should be done after rejections. Then what is the flow, the typical workflow of the journals or research books, or the authored books, was covered in this lecture, and how the growth mindset should be there in research, and how the communication should be done, and how the revision should be done, was explained in this lecture. Thank you. Question and answers.
Thank you very much, sir, for your very informative lecture. So there are some couple of questions we have from the audience. The first question is how to find the list of authentic journals according to their field.
Uh, List of.
List of authentic journals.
Okay, okay. You see, it is a nice question, and it is always a doubt among the new researchers. The main thing is, through the website, the the journals could be searched, and then about the journal, what are the indices, like where it is indexed, uh, that could be seen in the website. But if the main thing is about the good journals, then it should be considered that whether in the indexing of the journal, it is Scopus Index, Web of Science Index, or not. Clarivate could also be helpful in understanding that particular journal is a good one or not. Then even in the Scopus, it could be checked in that Elsevier website, that the journal is mentioned in the Scopus or not. Similarly, if UGC care list journals are being considered, which are national importance, then the updated UGC care list, which is often there every year, should be considered and checked, that whether the list of journals is having that particular journal name or not, because many times the journal website might be mentioning it is there uh, in the in this index, it is indexed in this, but it is must checked in the update is index, uh, whether the name of the journal is there or not. So that can be done in the national importance journals, but in the Scopus profile, it will be there whether this particular journal is a Scopus index or not. And then further parameters could also be seen: what is SGR score of the journal, whether it is Q4 journal, and in the past years, what were the citations, impact of the journal, whether it is in the Q3, Q2, or Q1. So that is how it could be checked, or whether it is indexed in Web of Science. So Clarivate will also be helpful in checking whether the journal is a good quality one or not, apart from checking the journal website.
Okay, thank you, sir. The second question is what are the elements of the review team for Scopus or Elsevier? I think it is Elsevier. He is or means audience is trying to write Elsevier or Science Direct consider while accepting the articles. Means
Uh,
the elements of I think what are the parameters the review team will consider for accepting any articles. This is the meaning of this sentence.
Yeah, normally the standard is like there will be three reviewers, and at least two reviewers should be in support for the manuscript. But in the case of conflict, four reviewers or five to six manuscript. So the main elements are like there could be some of the journals which might be related to humanities, but in those particular list of journals, whether they are in the SCI list of journals or not, that should be checked through the Elsevier website. So if it is there, then their SGR score could be checked, and whether in the Scopus, in which quartile it is considered, that could be checked, and what is the impact of the journal of humanities journal could be seen through that. And Clarivate will also be helpful to checking these things. So that will give a rough idea whether the humanity particular journal should be considered or not.
Okay, sir. Next question is where can I find the latest Scopus indexed journal list?
Could you repeat it?
Where can I find the latest Scopus indexed journal list?
Okay, this could be found by searching either the journal name or even the Elsevier website. They are showing the list of top 20 journals, top 100 journals. So the list could be sorted based on the stream of maybe the branch which is being considered, if it is humanities or maybe science and technology is being considered. So that will be sorted in the filters of that Elsevier website. So based on that they will show the top 20 journals, top 100 journals, and then the journal website could be checked, and based on that the next process or the guidelines of that particular journal could be considered, and future steps could be taken.
Okay, sir. Next question is where I find UGC Care journal list. Means it is asking that the how can we find the UGC Care journal list?
Yeah, UGC care journalist. This is one of the major problems because many of the journals, particularly within India, in their website, they are showing that it is indexed in UGC care. But if UGC care journal list is being considered, then the UGC already writes that it won't take any responsibility if the journal is writing that it is being indexed in UGC care, even though if it is not indexed in UGC care. So in that case, if authors are not checking and only blindly believing that the journal website is mentioning that it is in UGC care list and it is supposed being published, so UGC won't take any responsibility regarding it. So it is a must that the UGC care journalist must be checked, their website must be checked, and their list must be considered. So they have the search bar and the name of that particular journal, which is stating that it is in UGC care journal list in the indexing. their name should be searched in the search bar of UGC Care journalist, and then it will show whether it is there or not, because every year UGC Care list is being updated, and it is expelling or excluding a number of journals every year. So maybe the journal which is being considered by authors, they might be indexed in UGC Care in the past but not at present, or maybe they were never indexed in UGC Care list. So that's why in the search bar, every time before submission, uh, the UGC Care website should be checked, and mention the name of the journal and see the results, whether it is showing that particular journal in the search results or not. If it is not there, then it is excluded from the UGC Care indexing. And if it is there, then it is currently being indexed.
Okay. Next one is, I think it is written like, what about book chapter writing? This is the statement. I think means the audience is seeking for about the process of book chapter writing, whether it is similar to paper writing or not, like this.
Normally, there will be a difference in book chapter writing and in journal papers, because in the book chapter writing, it is uh, related to that particular research book, that particular theme. If suppose, for example, if the research book is on smart cities, so the book chapters should be related to smart cities and elements of smart cities and innovation in the smart cities. Uh, but in the case of journal, it is different, because they will have a number of themes, and articles in the journals could represent them independently. But in the case of book chapter writing, every chapter should be connected with the last chapter and with the theme of the research book. So it becomes hard. And normally, if we see the professors or researchers, they will have some book chapters, but not many. And then the quality book chapters, uh, they should be indexed in a scopus. The publishers could be different, maybe Springer Nature, or maybe Willie and Sons, or maybe Elsevier, or IJ Global, etc., or maybe CRC Press.
Okay, sir. Next one is there any value of paper published in conference proceedings? Means I think the question is it is seeking the idea that whether conference proceeding publication is valuable or that much, means having that much impact or not.
See, the publications are normally either journal article publications, or conference proceedings, or research books. So, of course, each have their own pros and cons. Most preference is given to the journal articles, because they are regular in their issue, and they are cited highly. But conference papers have also their own pros, like of course, presenting the papers and highlighting it, that gives the chance to extend the network and have more opportunities with other researchers, or even in touch with the section chair, session chair, or organizers. And if we see carefully, then every university organizes conferences every year. So if it is not important, then uh, universities won't organize conferences every year. Even the IITs and NITs, they organize conferences every year. Their department will organize, each department will organize conferences. But the question is whether the conference is up to the mark or not. So, if the conference is a good conference, who is the organizer and who is the publisher, and whether it will be indexing in the Scopus proceeding or not, these should be given more importance.
Okay, sir.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, sir. So next one is, what should I mention while submitting the paper when I don't have any funding resources?
In that case, if the funding resources are not there, then either some funding agencies could be contacted for funding, or maybe the university or those authors or researchers could be asked that their study is having such significance that funding should can be considered, or maybe if there's still no funding, then the submission of manuscript could still be done for subscription based or hybrid based models which don't require any funding. It is free of cost publication.
I think it is the question is, I think, what should I write in the means there is a section where the author need to write the funding opportunity, means what kind of any funding is there for that publication or not. I think it is asking for that what should I
Okay.
write on that section for funding section,
Okay,
like.
so yeah. Then, if there's some kind of funding which might be affecting the research, that should be mentioned in the manuscript, so that while evaluating the manuscript, they should know that whether the funding agency is affecting the study or not. If there's some funding, then it should be mentioned properly, and whether it is affecting the study or not. The conclusions or the results are being affected by the funding or not. If there's no funding, then that should also be mentioned in the manuscript.
Means no funding is there for that particular publication like this. It should be written there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes, yes. Okay, and a question is there. It comes up like I published a paper in the Scopus indexed journal, but if my paper is not in the Scopus index, what step I need to take? I think
Norm.
this question is maybe he or she had published in a Scopus Index journal, but it is not listed in Scopus database, I think, till now. So that is why it is asked. So what kind
Uh,
of step?
in that case, normally that is not a problem in the case of authentic journals. That comes a problem in conference proceedings or book chapters or research books, because journals which are authentic and they are really listed in Scopus, they will be find in the publication will be find in the Scopus database. But in the case of research books or maybe conference proceedings, their indexing in Scopus goes after publication. So in that case, they might take a month or a few months to be indexed in the Scopus, and then their details could be found in Scopus database.
Okay, sir. Uh, Next question is, can we go for free or paid? Means I think the question it is asking like, what is preferable, paid or free publication?
Actually, both have their own pros and cons. If first thing should be clear that what the authors want. If they are not having any funding agency, then they should consider the free ones, which are subscription based. So in that case, there won't be any charges in the whole process of publishing their articles, manuscript. But the only con is that if the readers want to read that, then they have to pay the subscription fees. Then only they will be able to read their published manuscript. So that will affect the citation or referencing of their studies, because those universities whose library has not subscripted that particular journal or the publisher, then it won't be available. Otherwise, you need to buy them. So, if that is not the concern of the authors, then they could go for the paid ones, which require some amount of money, and they will publish it in open access. And in the case of open access, it will be freely available, so more citations will be possible, because readers will be able to read that manuscript freely. So if that is what the authors are looking, then they should go for the charged publication APC fees, and if that will improve their citations and H index. But if they are not looking for that, and it is they are not having any funding agency, then they should go for subscription based or free ones.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. So these are the end of the questions from the audience. And so we are almost at the end of the session. So before ending, I would like to thank again on the behalf of everyone present here. I extend my gratitude, gratitude to Engineer Aditya Singh for sharing his invaluable insights on a topic that resonates deeply with researchers, academicians, and professionals striving to navigate the often challenging landscape of academic publishing. So, your expertise and practical advice on effective communication, managing revisions, and managing the rejections into opportunities have provided us with a wealth of knowledge and actionable strategies. So again, once again, a big thank to Engineer Aditya Singh for inspiring and motivating to us to tackle the complexities of the academic publishing world with greater confidence. So thank you again. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me as one of the keynote speaker for today's session, and a special thanks to InnovaWorld, and um, to the founder and organizer of InnovaWorld, Engineer Ashwarya, and also to Dr. Arnav for
Thank you.
hosting
Thank you.
this event and managing this event.
Okay, so we are now winding up the session now. All the participants, uh, tomorrow's session will not be there. Next session will be on Monday. And thank you again. So let us uh, wind up the session now. Thank you very much.